Reading Olympus One-Offs by Engineer Forever.
Yes, it is my time to shine. Hermes pumped his fist into the air. We get it, Herm. We get it, Apollo said with a roll of his eyes. His book was still missing. Well, we all know that he needs this after his other kid tried to end the world, Ares said. He got a middle finger from Hermes. Screw you, Ares. You're just jealous that my kid will be cooler than yours. I have a complaint. Zeus frowned. He gestured to himself and his brothers. Why must we wait for the reading of our children? Because our kids need attention too. Hermes proclaimed. The other Olympians nodded. It was always about the big three kids. They needed their time to shine after all. Enough with the squabbling. Someone read. Demeter sighed. I'll take it. Percy said, and the book floated over to his hand. The Traveler's Son, Chapter 1. In a cave on the side of Mount Cylon, a woman hummed as she brushed her hair. Curtains of yellow were brushed softly, each stroke made them brighter than the last until they nearly matched the same radiance of the sun. Apollo cleared his throat in offense. Hermes gave him a smug grin. It's true. The brush, made of bronze and detailed with an eagle on the back. Hera frowned at her husband. Zeus ignored the look and continued to play innocent while he listened to the story. Was set on a wooden desk as a gust of wind made itself known. The woman allowed a smile to cross her face. Why, it's been a while since you've come to visit me, Hermes, she said as she turned in her seat to face the god in question. I'm always busy, damn internet. Hermes frowned, he felt bad now. He needed to get some time off and visit his mom. Golden eyes met with sky-blue orbs filled with despair and her smile vanished. My son, what troubles you? Mother, Hermes said softly as he walked in. He was dressed traditionally as a Greek god was expected to be, sandals, simple cloth and bronze armor. Apollo arched a brow. A bit traditional, isn't it, Herm? I like it. The messenger god huffed. But in his left arm, opposite of the right which wielded the caduceus, was a bundle that fit snugly where it lay. The law. Zeus frowned at his son. I have an excuse. I think. Hermes muttered the second part. He was already on thin ice with the whole Luke debacle. Gods were petty about stuff like that. Hermes approached his mother, the goddess Maya, with a look of depression etched in his face. I don't know where else to go. My son, born of a woman I thought already had given birth, is now motherless. Quote ellipsis. What? Percy asked. He didn't understand that. I thought she gave birth, but she really didn't yet and died during childbirth. Hermes explained in a soft voice. Percy winced at that. Oh. Maya frowned and stood. She approached her son and peered down at the occupant of the bundle, a babe with hair as yellow as her own and skin as fair as her son's slept easily in Hermes' arm. The only thing off about him were the faint marks that looked like whiskers. Naruto, the gods and demigods said as one. The whiskers were the giveaway. With a light coo, she took the babe and traced his face with her hand. He's precious, Hermes. What happened to the mother? Childbirth proved to be too much after 10 months of carrying him, Hermes said with a guilty frown. That's abnormal. Artemis muttered to herself. Happened in my Naruto. And in Aphrodite's, Apollo said nonchalantly. Aphrodite grimaced. My poor other. 10 months as a mortal with a baby inside her. And a demonic force. Athena added. I had assumed she would be like the other mortals and left her alone at the due date. Since when? Artemis glared at her younger brother. All mothers wanted the father to be present at the birth. Experience. Hermes twiddled his thumbs. Artemis scowled and crossed her arms as she looked away. Idiot. Hermes bowed his head in shame. Assumptions, dear, assumptions, Maya said chidingly. She looked up and put a hand on Hermes' face. I will care for him. Can she do that? Leo whispered to Annabeth. She's done it before. Annabeth returned softly. Arcas, the king of Arcadia. Hera scowled and glared at Zeus, who ignored it dutifully. 2 infidelities mentioned in one story, thus far it was not the queen's favorite. Hermes lit up and took his mother's hand in his own. He left a kiss on her palm and smiled at her. Thank you, mother. His mother named him Naruto. Copycat. Apollo huffed with a frown. I know. Aphrodite nodded. Copying is another sign of flattery. Hermes returned with a smile. He got nods of agreement from the two and smirked. Too easy. Maya's golden brow arched up. An oriental name. Kushina Uzumaki was exotic, Hermes said with a sheepish shrug. Red-haired, fair-skinned, oddly named. You know, like a rare gem. Greedy boy, Maya said with a smile as she took her hand back and returned her attention to Naruto. Off with you, Hermes. I'm sure there's a delivery to be made somewhere. Yeah, do your job. Hermes glared at Ares, who grinned back. Farewell, mother, Hermes said. He stole one last glance at his son and then turned to leave. Hermes vanished with another gust of wind and Maya sighed. Poor boy, first May's curse. Oh, this is after that. Percy muttered, double ouch. And now the loss of a mother, Maya said with a sad frown. She brushed her hand over Naruto's whiskered face and smiled. But at least he knows how to care for his children. A mortal orphanage would have eaten you up. Literally. Hades nodded. Sometimes mortal parents couldn't take the fact they had a monster magnet and left them in orphanage. Monsters loved to work there. The baby fussed about lightly and Maya calmed him with a touch. Now, none of that. Grandmother is here. Maya rocked the baby back to a settled sleep and went over to where she kept mementos from the past. A small simple bronze crib set off to the side was pulled off and dusted with a wave of her hand. It's the jail Herm escaped from. Apollo noted lightly. Ha. Hermes rolled his eyes. Did she get it God-proofed? Leo asked. I don't think so, Frank said. She should ask for a refund. Maya smiled down at the babe that slept peacefully in her arms and carefully laid him in the crib. There we go. You look just like your father, Naruto. Except his father was a turtle killer at his age of a few hours old. Demeter sniffed. Hermes winced. I was young and didn't know any better. Apollo let out a bark of laughter. That's been your excuse since day one. Shut up, Apollo. Naruto gurgled in his sleep and Maya giggled. Much like Hermes, the baby was a natural attention thief. She rubbed her hand over Naruto's light hair and leaned down to kiss his head. Sleep, little maelstrom. May Morpheus grant you pleasant dreams. Content that her grandson was rested, Maya returned to her desk and began to search through it for a notebook. When she found it, Maya cracked the book open and began to write down a list of things to obtain from the nearby town. Unlike herself, Naruto was half mortal and needed mortal nourishment in order to survive. With a list of things to obtain, Maya donned the appearance of a mortal and left the cave, but not before she set up a barrier to keep monsters from getting in while she was away. Got to love that power. The gods smiled. The demigods on the other hand sulked. That would be a useful thing to have passed down to them. About an hour after Maya left, Naruto awoke. Blue eyes wandered the roof of the cave, curious about the environment around him. He wouldn't, Hazel said. No way. Piper waved off. The eyes landed on the side of the crib and Naruto reached out for it with a coo. A tiny pudgy hand grabbed the side and, rather intellectually, clung to it tightly. Within a few minutes, Naruto had rolled onto his side and latched on with the other hand. After he experimented with his hands for a bit, Naruto discovered that his arms bent and could be used to pull himself towards the edge. Now, one would think that this was rather fast for an infant newly born, but then again, one had to consider that this infant was born of a god and an exotic woman. Hermes, chest puffed up in pride while Apollo glowered at him. So, it's not too much to expect the boy to discover that he could leave the crib. It took him a total of 15 minutes, but Naruto managed to pull himself over the edge of the crib and land on his back on the ground. That's my boy. Hermes cheered. He could have gotten hurt, Hermes. Artemis glared at the god. She was the goddess of childbirth and all infants were under her domain, be it boy or girl, and an injury to any was a slight to her. Honestly. Hera frowned as well. She was a mother after all. Hermes looked sheepish. I'm sure he's fine. I mean, I was. You're a god. Artemis pointed out. He is not. While the gods debated the subject of a demigod infant escaping his crib, Leo whistled. That's one smart baby. Percy turned to Annabeth. Think you did that? Annabeth shook her head. I was smart enough to stay in my crib. Right. Nico rolled his eyes. Surprisingly, the cave's floor wasn't hard rock as one would expect, but a soft, thick, layer of sand that acted as a cushion to the infant's fall. The females in the room gave off a sigh of relief. They were relieved that the baby was unharmed. See? Told you he'd be okay. Hermes buffed his nails on his chest. With his freedom, the whiskered babe laughed joyfully and squirmed around on the ground. However, he was still limited to one spot, which was just not acceptable, and the baby started to fuss. His arms smacked the floor and his legs kicked awkwardly at the air. Look at him go. Hermes beamed. He's breakdancing. Piper cooed, it was so cute. Reyna gave a soft smile at the scene, it was adorable. It was at this scene that Maya returned. The warden's back. Apollo's comment earned him a glare from Hermes. Naruto. The grandmother dropped her grocery bags and rushed to the baby's side. She picked him up and rocked him while he cried. Shish, shish. There, little maelstrom. It's okay, it's okay. Best name ever. Zeus groaned at Poseidon's smirk. As the infant calmed, Maya looked to the crib and wondered if it had been cursed. Should have kept the receipt. Hephaestus shook his head. Right. Leo nodded in agreement. First Hermes and now you. Well, at least you didn't crawl to Thessaly. Oh come on Mom. Why do they keep following us? Naruto asked his friend. True to his word, once they left the restaurant, Billy led Naruto out of the city and then ditched his disguise. The tennis shoes on his feet came off and the satyr pitched the metal poles around his arms. Unfortunately, once they left the city, the winged snakes, which Billy said were Arabian in origin, due to their 6 feet in length and the 2 sets of feathered wings, he figured they must have migrated back after the winter left, found them and resumed their chase. Arabian night tilde, Apollo sang softly. Like Arabian day tilde. No, Artemis told him sternly. Oh, come on. Artemis glared at him. Fine. Apollo pouted like a child. Spoilsport. Billy, who had to restrain himself from leaving the blonde in the dust, panted and ducked under another serpent's dive. It's because you smell. Naruto frowned and quickly juked left to avoid a serpent and a tree. The serpent didn't have the same luck as he did. But I take baths all the time. Never understood that. Percy admitted. No, Naruto, your blood smells. Billy grabbed the boy's arm to pull him back on the right trail. Oh. Naruto nodded and then frowned. Quote. But that doesn't make sense. Oh Percy. Annabeth sighed. There Annie. Talia consoled her friend with a pat on the back and an amused grin on her face. Annabeth gave her a dull glare. That's the summary of our life for you, deal with it. Billy pulled Naruto down just as another serpent chose to dive at them. You didn't pick up any weapons to use. Yes, a club. Like a certain barbarian. Hera nodded. Well, I've got one. Naruto said. Billy stared at him for a moment. What? Why aren't you using it? We could kill these things and then go without trouble. It's too light. Naruto said. The guy the first got it from said it was bronze, but it was way too light to be bronze. I might have locked onto him and adjusted itself to be lighter for him. Annabeth theorized. Spoils are good like that. Talia nodded in agreement. Billy gaped at Naruto. Guy. Naruto, show me the weapon. Okay, but you'll think it's useless. Naruto said. He pulled his bag around and unzipped it. He reached in and begun to dig around in his bag. Nope, no, that's bread, that's an apple, that's my quarters. Hurry up, I think they're circling around us, Billy said. He kept his eyes on the snakes and swallowed at them. Naruto strained to stretch his arm in deeper. I think, yeah, there it is. Almost got it. Come on. How deep is that bag? Billy asked urgently. Oh, I have to deal with that all the time. Aphrodite sighed, a hand on her cheek. Grandmother said it was never ending, Naruto said with a grunt. Got it. The blonde pulled out the bronze club that Paraphetes once used and Billy stared at it in shock. Naruto held it out to Billy. Here, see. It's too light to be bronze. The satyr grabbed the club, but once Naruto let go, he fell to the ground with a wheeze. That club had to weigh at least 250 pounds. Quote ellipsis. Or he has quite the arm, Annabeth said dryly. Billy let go of the club and looked at Naruto in disbelief. Naruto, this is celestial bronze. How the heck can you carry all of it? Naruto frowned. It's really light. Trust me, it isn't, Billy said with a groan. He let go of the club and rubbed his arm. I think I almost dislocated my shoulder. Baby. Ares scoffed. He's a satyr, they're not exactly built for brute strength, Hermes said. TCH, whatever. Goats are only good for dinner. Naruto grabbed the club and once more lifted it with ease. But if it's so heavy, why can I lift it up? Well, your dad was said to wait, swing it around. Swing it now. Billy dropped to the ground and covered his head as Naruto spun and swung the club. A winged snake that had its maw opened wide was suddenly sent soaring in the opposite direction by the blow. It dissolved into dust mid-air and the other 3 snakes hissed in anger. And it's a home run, Percy called out. Go Yankees. Annabeth cheered. Naruto, do you know what baseball is? Billy asked from where he was on the ground. Yeah, it's where you hit a ball with a stick, right? Naruto had seen a game with his class in 1st grade and had even played it once. But he had to sit out the next game because he was accused of cheating. Quote ellipsis. How do you cheat in baseball besides steroids? Leo asked. Kids are stupid. Nico pointed out. Oh, right. It wasn't his fault he ran faster than the other kids in school. Or that he actually stole second base. He didn't know that they didn't mean it literally. Only a child of Hermes. The gods muttered. Hermes, however, looked quite proud. The other snakes are balls, swing away. Go for the grand slam, little man. Billy cheered. Little man, perfect name. Leo snickered. Gosh darn it, that was your name. Quote ellipsis. Shut up, Jemmy. Leo glared at the smiling Hazel. The satyr watched the 9-year-old swing when the serpents tried to dive at him all at once. The bat flew through the air and connected with a loud crack with the first snake. The second had a similar sound as did the third, but it oddly sounded like when you clapped 2 halves of a coconut together, due to the collision of the heads. Like horses galloping. Athena smiled a little. Poseidon glared at her. Damn Apollo for that Monty Python Grail movie. Even if it was genius. The snakes turned to dust, their skulls likely shattered from the impact, and small bottles of dark liquid were left behind in their absence. Billy got to his hooves and patted Naruto on the shoulder with a grin on his face. Nice job, Naruto. You'd be a shoo-in for the Yankees one day. Second baseman. Annabeth guessed. That was quick. Piper raised her brow. Annabeth shrugged. He'll have the build if he's like the other kids of Hermes I've seen. Maybe we should get you a scouting position. Percy laughed at his own joke. He failed to notice that Annabeth looked like she was considering it. Naruto shrugged and dropped his club to the side. I don't really like baseball. It's no fun. Yeah, I'll bet. Billy thought with a chuckle. The satyr gathered up all of the bottles and brought them back to Naruto so he could put them in his bag. What are they? Naruto asked as he held one up. Arabian winged serpent venom, Billy said. The poison is one of the most deadly in the world. You could trade these for a high price at camp or save them for later. Heck, I'm sure Apollo wouldn't mind an offering of one. It could get you something nice one day. I do like testing venom. Apollo rubbed his chin. Why don't I just give one to him? Naruto asked with a tilt of his head. His eyes looked up at the sun before Billy could stop him. Naruto held the vial up. I don't really want anything, but here. Well, that's generous of him, Apollo said as Hermes smirked at him. He huffed. Much more generous than his father. That's a lie. Ha. In your face. I can't lie. The bottle vanished from existence with a small pop and Billy shook his head. That wasn't very smart, Naruto. You could have used that someday. I have 3 other ones, and besides, he's my uncle, right? Grandmother said you should always be nice and give gifts to your family, Naruto said as he put the other 3 in his bag. And Dad gave him the lyre. To save his hide. Hades smirked while Hermes looked sheepish. Meh, I worked with it. Apollo shrugged as he pulled out his lyre. A look from Artemis and he dismissed it. Billy rubbed his face. Yeah, sure he did. Whatever, kid. It's your trophy, I guess I shouldn't tell you what to do with it. Naruto zipped his bag up and pulled it back on. He looked at Billy curiously as he carried his club on his shoulder. So, why is the club so light for me, but so heavy for you? My guess is it's because of your father's strength, Billy said as they started to walk once more. Your father was said to create the first tortoise by lifting a nymph's house from the ground over his head and tossing it atop her. He cursed her to always carry it with her because she refused to leave it when Zeus called all the animals to a meeting. Our wedding. Hera corrected sternly. Ah, the happy years. Hades nodded mockingly. He ignored the glare from the married couple. Oh, so I can lift a house? Naruto asked. If that were the case, he could just carry his home whenever he traveled. Quote ellipsis. That was a Percy moment right there. Talia muttered. I wouldn't try it, Billy said. You probably got a small fraction of Hermes' strength. Ah. Well, maybe at camp one can get stronger. Naruto said with a bright smile. Billy laughed and ruffled his hair. That I've no doubt about, the satyr said with a smile. The 15-year-old Naruto Uzumaki was back in the Big Apple, the teenager wide awake at the ungodly hour of 8 o'clock. He had jimmied the lock to a small apartment on the edge of the East River and now relaxed on the couch with Kurama in his lap. He had a good few days to spend here before he had to be on his way, as the owner would return from his trip soon. House squatting? Talia asked, seriously. Hermes shrugged. Hey, if you got the skills, use them. His arms stretched above his head and he listened to the stock exchange report on CNN. The newscaster was relatively pretty, though she looked like a younger Sigourney Weaver with shorter lighter hair. Man, Motorola needs to get itself together. Naruto took a sip of the coffee he had made earlier. Commercials came on and Kurama let out a yawn. Naruto nodded in agreement. I know bud, but mortals have to get their products seen by the world somehow, otherwise, what's the use of trying to make money? Okay, Herm, stop inflating your ego. Apollo rolled his eyes. Hermes grinned at him. Jealous. You wish. The sun god scoffed. There was a sudden boom and the apartment shook. Stuff fell from the shelves and Naruto hugged Kurama to him to keep him safe. The fox yipped in shock and fear while Naruto tried to soothe him with gentle strokes of his red fur. When it was all said and done, Naruto went to the window to try and find out what happened. The neighbors shouted and children cried once the boom ended. Naruto growled in frustration, unable to see anything that had happened from his window. The commercial on the television suddenly cut from the creditor ad to a breaking news bulletin that read, World Trade Center disaster. Naruto rushed to the remote, his fox on his lap and turned up the volume. Oh damn, Nico said. Now, he may have been stuck in the Lotus, but even he heard about this. That was a busy day. Hades sighed out tiredly. Percy frowned and everyone grew quiet. A obviously very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center, the voice of a female reporter said. Naruto took in the image of the tower with the enormous hole in the side and the smoke that rose from it. He grabbed his bags and ran out of the apartment, Kurama hot on his heels. The whiskered blonde ran to the nearest stairwell and ran up at least 5 flights of stairs. He burst through the roof entryway and swiveled around until he saw it. I was in school at the time, Percy said. He remembered when his mom rushed in to get him. A lot of kids got taken out that day even if they didn't understand why. Even Smelly Gab showed a bit of humanity in him when it happened. Some of the demigods looked at the gods, but they gave no input. They had stony looks on their faces. Disbelief washed over him and Naruto let his hands go to his head. The smoke began to fill the sky and Naruto ran his hands down his face as shock filled him. Holy shit. What the fuck? Kurama yipped and Naruto took note of several monsters fleeing the area by the rooftop. He ducked into the stairwell, not at all prepared to fight. Some hellhounds rushed by without a second glance and Naruto heard a cyclops as it ran past. Human disaster, can't Hunter Hades punish me? Run faster, Largo. Run faster. Hades grinned at his policy, he was always swamped during a disaster. If a monster so much as killed someone, well, the Furies got to have their fun. That's interesting, huh boy? Naruto asked his vulpine friend. When the monsters' stampede was finished, Naruto turned back to the towers. He reached into his modern bag for the bag his grandmother had given him several years ago. He dug around for a bit before he pulled out a watch and strapped it to his wrist. The time read 8:52 a.m. Man. I hope no one's parent worked there, he said softly. Naruto frowned as he felt a small stab of guilt in his heart. He should hope for more than just the demigods here. Naruto clenched his fist and he ran back to the stairway, intent on doing something. Kurama followed him down all the way down to the street, along with several other tenants that were equally disturbed and curious. As he ran towards the building, a large bird-like shape caught his eye and he gasped as a plane ran straight into the other tower. Silent sobs rang out from the demigods as they looked down and paid respects or didn't wish to watch it. All those people. Naruto's eyes were wide in horror and words failed to be formed on his normally silver tongue. He heard people scream and yell. It was sheer chaos. Naruto went up to the nearest payphone and worked his magic on it to get a free call to Camp Half-Blood. See Camp Half-Blood. Chiron speaking. He learned rather quickly, Zeus said. Messenger God. Hermes pointed to himself. One would think you'd be working to fix things. Ares smirked. Hermes scowled at him. Hey, the kids had a right to find out right away. Chiron. Are you watching the news? Naruto asked as Kurama climbed to his shoulders. He put his hand over his other ear to better hear Chiron over the sirens. Chiron sounded relieved to hear his voice. Naruto. Hold on. Janet, gather the counselors. Just do it and tell the others to stay in their cabins. Have satyrs on full alert and, damn it Mr. D. Could you for once in your life take your job seriously? No, Percy spat under his breath. Excuse me, the god sounded outraged. You heard me. I will make note to Lord Zeus of your indifference at this time. Quote. Fine, this will not be forgotten Chiron. Wow, D, seriously. Apollo raised a brow. The other gods joined him in giving Dionysus looks. Dionysus just averted his gaze and squirmed a bit. You can smite me later. Naruto was in awe at how angry Chiron was over this. To yell at Dionysus. The centaur had to be infuriated with the mortals. Or scared for his pupils. Naruto, where are you? Liar, tell the truth. Liar, tell the truth. Liar, fuck it. I'm there, Chiron, the towers. Always the truth for something like this. Apollo noted, which made Hermes roll his eyes. Are you safe? Naruto nodded. I'm fine. So is Kurama. Just thought you should know, any monsters in the area are heading your way and fast. I'm aware. Tragedy makes the underworld a busy place, and the additional demigod souls usually pile up along with mortals. Monsters who kill during a tragedy like this one earn Hades, ire for millennium. Pretty much. The Lord of the Dead nodded. Are you going to be on your way? Naruto knew the centaur had his best interests in mind, but he knew he was going to be needed here. He could feel it. No, I've gotta help. A true hero. Percy smiled. Good on Naruto. Naruto, this isn't a monster fight. I'm not asking any more, I'm telling. All demigods of Camp Age are to come back this instant. Wonderful. Dionysus groaned in the background. Dionysus just covered his eyes with a groan as he tried to ignore the disgusted stares laid upon him. Not now. Naruto could hear the frustration in Chiron's voice. Naruto, this is a mortal incident. You will come back to camp. No can do, Chiron. I'm a hero, and you taught me that heroes save lives even at the cost of their own, Naruto said determinedly. He left the phone and let it dangle from where it once hung. Against monsters, not natural disasters or mortal skirmishes. Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. Man, just leaving whenever he wants, sounds like a pretty sweet deal. Leo murmured. Oh, I'd let you all go, but Chiron puts his hoof down at that, Lion-O. Dionysus informed. Naruto, dressed in blue slacks and a red flash shirt, smiled as he walked through Sandy Springs, Georgia. Best hero ever. Hermes said smugly. Batman. Athena corrected. No, Green Arrow. Apollo argued with Artemis nodding beside him. Enough. Zeus warned. Besides it's Marvel's version of that buffoon Thor. We're talking DC, Dad. Hermes, please, Hestia said sweetly. Right. The messenger nodded. There were no monsters to be seen since Kronos' defeat in Manhattan a few months ago, and Naruto was glad that Uranus had finally decided to lay low while the gods and campers recovered from the second Titanomachy. So with his free time, Naruto decided to come home for Thanksgiving. We were really thankful that year. Percy nodded. Oh yeah. Annabeth smiled at him and he smiled back at her. It's great to be back, Hakurama. The red fox looked up at him with a yip. Naruto grinned and kept his hands in his pockets while he walked towards his apartments. As he rounded the bend that would put them in sight, his eyes widened and he stared in horror at the multiple crushed buildings and fires set around his home. The bag that hung lazily from one arm dropped to the ground. Quote ellipsis. That's not good. Leo surmised. No, it's not. Hermes frowned. Giants. Jason suggested. Hermes paled along with Zeus at that statement. No. Naruto ran through the wreckage, many mortals already on cleanup, and beeline for his house. What he saw made him infuriated, disheartened and even more horrified than before. His home was destroyed, not a scrap of it upright, and in front of it laid a very familiar form. Hermes' heart sank right there. Oh, Olympus. Here Herm, Apollo said as he delicately took the book. Grandmother. Naruto saw Maya on the ground, her head tilted to the side and a bit of golden ichor pooled around her mouth. Her eyes were closed and his heart clenched with worry. The younger blonde burst into a run, his eyes never left her form. Fury entered Hermes' eyes while Zeus clenched his throne's armrest and his master bolt tightly, though his face did not change. I don't think so. A backhand from a massive hand knocked Naruto into the air with a spiral. He landed and created a small trench with the kinetic force that pulled him along. Naruto scrambled to his feet and glared daggers at the giant that stood between him and his unconscious grandmother. The giant had oily black hair, pure white eyes and was dressed in a tracksuit with the Adidas logo on the left corner of his outfit. Around his neck were several gold chains, which topped off the mobster-like appearance. Hippolytus. Hermes seethed, icy blue eyes akin to a murderer. The giant frowned. I was hoping that little runt of a mailman would be here. Give him a good thrashing before I left. Granted, a demigod is nice too. Especially one of his kids. Naruto's hands reached to his hips and grabbed the axe heads of bronze that hung there. He brought them out, prepared to use them like brass knuckles, and glared daggers at the giant. I'll kill you. Not without one of us. Ares corrected. Oh, he'll have me with him, Hermes said. His voice was dead calm, but his eyes told a different story. Cliché much. The giant taunted with a, bring it, gesture. Naruto ran at him with his fist brought back. He swung and hit air. Confused, he stepped back and looked around. Naruto doubled over as the giant, now at half his original height, reappeared with his fist embedded in the blonde's gut. Keep your eyes on the prize, hero. He can do that? Piper asked. He's my giant. He has to be fast. Hermes scowled. You can't run fast supersized. So true. Ares grinned. It's why you're a midget. Shut up, Ares. Not in the mood. Naruto looked up through one eye and brought his left hand down to swing the bronze axe through the giant's wrist. The giant vanished once more and reappeared behind him. 8-ball, corner pocket. A hard kick to the back sent Naruto through one of the half-destroyed buildings in the area. And he lost the game. Ares shook his head. He liked billiards. Really? Athena asked him. What? He didn't hit any other balls. Athena just sighed. As Naruto rolled several more feet away, the giant laughed and cracked his knuckles. Oh, this feels so good, he said. What the hell is Enceladus so worried about? Mother's going to rise, the gods are hiding away in their mountain and the demigods are ours for the taking. Thanks for that by the way. Percy told Zeus. The king of the gods scowled at his nephew, damn little punk. Naruto coughed up some blood and slowly got back to his feet. He wrapped his right arm around his stomach and sighed with a wince. At least 5 ribs were cracked, if not broken. He grit his teeth, stained with blood, and steadied himself. I think he's almost out of the fight. Jason winced, those injuries were just begging to get worse from the coming fight. The giant grinned at the sight. You've got spunk, kid. I respect that. You're going to willingly face me unlike your yellow daddy. Punk ass used the underworld king's helm to kill me with that demigod's sword. I'm a god of mischief, ass. Hermes crossed his arms. Sneaking around is what I do best. Sneak attacks are all well and good. Athena told him, which a thankful nod from the messenger god. Why, does every monster with a mouth like to use it? Naruto asked through labored breaths. He brought his arms up, fists tight around the handles of his axe blades. The giant's grin widened. What's wrong, kid? He vanished and reappeared with another fist in the blonde's gut. Having breathing issues. Dude's going to need a breathing tube soon. Leo grimaced from the gut shots Naruto kept taking. No. Naruto winced as the lie left his mouth. He dropped his weapons and grabbed onto the giant's wrist with both hands and tugged him back. Naruto drove his foot into the giant's stomach and used the momentum from the pull to throw the giant. The giant flipped in the air and landed through the wall of another building on his back. Giant tossing. Apollo mused, that could be a sport. Apollo, focus. Oh, right. Sorry. Naruto used the time to get some air and dig around in his pocket. There had to be a cube, bingo. Naruto pulled the small cube of ambrosia out and popped it into his mouth. He quickly chewed and swallowed the godly food before he got back to his feet. Smart to carry some like that. Annabeth nodded. That's why I always have a water bottle, Percy said. After I got you a personal one. After you got me a personal one. The son of Poseidon nodded. Clever, the giant said, once more somehow in front of him without a sound made. Two hands a bit larger than his head grabbed him by the shoulders. Ready for some fun. Before Naruto could answer, he was slammed through several walls before unceremoniously dropped to the ground. He climbed back to his feet just in time to be picked up by the giant, who he noticed was slightly larger than before. Wow, talk about rag doll. Frank muttered, it was not Naruto's day. Pain train, coming through. The giant cackled when he grabbed Naruto once more and begun to slam him into several trees as they ran past. Boo. Do something. Shut up, Ares. Naruto was slammed into one more tree before the giant tossed him to land over by the entryway to his apartments. Naruto groaned and looked through a squinted eye to find his pack on the ground where he had dropped it. The blonde struggled to army crawl towards it, his back throbbed with each pull and he could barely feel his legs. He reached out for his pack, if he could get a larger dose of ambrosia or nectar. Ah, ah, ah. Naruto was kicked onto his back a few feet away from his pack. A thump made the ground shake and then something was shoved through his right thigh. Naruto screamed in pain. Piper covered her eyes. She couldn't handle those kind of visuals. They were nasty to look at and painful. A fist cracked him across the face like it was shot from a cannon and for half a minute, Naruto blacked out. And he's dead, Ares said in a bored tone. Get off of me, you rodent. Naruto groaned as he came to his senses and the buzz in his ears went away. A yelp had him look to his right and see Kurama land in a roll a few feet away. Hell, the fluff ball has more game than the kid. Ares pointed out, which got him a glare from Hermes. Not that he cared. Naruto groaned and sat up. He looked at his leg, pinned to the ground by a steel pole about 15 feet long. Naruto grabbed the steel and pulled it out of his leg with a yell. Percy was thankful for his healing powers. That looked like it hurt, a lot. Oh. Still alive are we? The giant that had handed him his ass several times over sauntered over to the blonde with a spear in hand. Tell me, demigod. Would you like to live this day? Naruto settled for a tired glare as his answer. I'll let you live, the giant said. He began to walk over to Maya. But only after I kill the mother of Hermes. I gotta send him a message somehow, you know. Like a mob hit. Piper concluded. Oh, I'll show him a mob hit. Hermes muttered darkly. Naruto tightened his hands into fists and struggled to get up, the hole in his thigh made it nearly impossible. He watched with anger and horror as the giant came to a stop beside the Olympian's mother. The spear went up and time seemed to slow down for Naruto. No. If only I was just a little faster. Hermes grit his teeth. He was wishing for that too right now. The spear slowly descended towards Maya and Naruto tried with renewed energy to get back to his knees. Just a little faster. Naruto pushed down on his bad leg and slowly rose to his feet. Just a little faster. The sandals on his feet started to glow and Naruto's legs started to heal. The gods looked at the cold eyes of Hermes. He didn't even register them and tightened his grip on his throne while he watched the screen intently. Run. Naruto, run. Astral coaching. Hermes rebuffed the looks he got. His eyes keen on the images displayed. The voice, familiar and angry, ordered. Something clicked in the back of Naruto's head and he moved. The ground was torn up as he took one step and wound up a foot away from the giant and his grandmother. Interesting. You gave him super speed. Hades mused. Hermes. Zeus started with a frown on his face. It didn't help that his son ignored him. Naruto's arms reached out just as the tip of the spear was half a foot away from its mark. There was a loud crack in the air followed by the sound of dirt being pierced by bronze metal. The giant looked around in shock. What the where'd the bitch go? Quote ellipsis. Gut him. Hermes hissed. Percy looked at the god with a hint of fear in his eyes. He could now see where Luke got his angry looks from. Another crack echoed in the air and the giant stumbled back with a yell. His spear end from the middle of his forearm down had been cut clean off. My arm. Who dares? Another crack and his other arm vanished from the elbow down. The giant let out a cry of pain. Now that's disarming. Leo gasped. Boo. Piper jeered. That sucked. Shut up. Leo scowled. That was perfect. Naruto ran, his legs moved faster than ever before. His hands once more wielded the bronze axe heads that he had dropped during the fight with the giant. He shot over the Pacific Ocean, the water several seconds behind him as a boom echoed. That boom signaled his destruction of the sound barrier. How he knew that, he didn't know. All he knew was that he had to run. Hermes, you little fool. Athena scowled. Athena, kindly zip it. Hermes grunted. Athena rubbed her forehead. The bodies of mortals, even demigods, are not meant for that strain. Not listening. Faster. A louder crack and more of the giant's left arm came off completely. Faster. The ground ripped apart beneath his feet. He absent-mindedly noticed that the Great Pyramids looked kind of cool. Lucky. Annabeth whined. I don't do well in places without rain. Percy pointed out. Nico scowled while Talia grimaced at the memory of their trip in a desert. Faster. What is happening? The giant roared again as his right arm joined the left. The sights became a blur and Naruto lapped the world once over, then twice, then 5 times, then 10. He's going too fast. Apollo pointed out. He'll be fine. Hermes refuted with his eyes still on the screen. Just keep reading. I think that's your anger talking, Herm. And if it was your mother, Apollo. Shutting up. I don't understand. The giant groaned as he fell to his knees, his arms gone and hundreds of gashes on his body. His expensive tracksuit was gone, tatters from the assault he underwent. There was a boom and he looked up at the blonde demigod he had beaten into the ground moments ago. Quote. You. What are you? I am the Speed Force, Apollo said in a dramatic voice. Leo whistled. Any and all badass points restored. I'm the demigod that killed you, Naruto said, his voice echoed as his body vibrated. He looked like he couldn't stand still if he tried. His body was cracked all over and leaked red with blood from the wounds. Look what you did, Hermes. Athena shook her head. She was right, she always was after all. Hermes just rolled his eyes at her. She honestly needed to learn to shut up. He brought his right hand back, the bronze axe head gleamed in the daylight, though it looked ready to fracture with the next blow. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I'm the son of Hermes. No oh. The giant's yell was cut short as his head was cut off. The head landed in the dirt and the body dissolved into dust, sent back to the underworld where it belonged. Oh yeah. That's my boy. Suck it, Hippo. Hermes whooped with glee. Settle down. Artemis told him, he was bouncing too much. Never. Naruto's weapons exploded into dust and the blonde fell to his knees. His shirt burst long ago from the strain of the speed and his jeans were tattered and torn from the friction. Blood leaked from his body and his eyes, bloodshot to the extreme, rolled into his head as he fell forward. Athena just raised her brow as Hermes winced at the sight. Okay, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And there you have it, just the preview of this coming series.